Hello YouTube, Ronan Kazi. I guess I figured out what my name's gonna be. My other name, right? My name I use in normal world. I don't use that. I don't know why. My gamer tag was Ronan Kazi. I've told the story before. Was in a Microsoft Combat Flight Simulator 2. I was in a Japanese squadron and I ended up being Ronan Kazi. Anyways, here we are. So, I was going to get back to you last week on this kind of project I have to install distributions on my machine and then kind of use them over like maybe 6 weeks or 2 months or whatever, and give you a real usage thing, because I don't think it's fair to put something on running a distribution in VirtualBox is way different than installing it on your machine. It's just a lot more problems. That's kind of why I did it. So initially I started off with CachyOS. That's on my main system. So that was the main distribution I put on my PC. Then I was going to do Void Linux and Tumbleweed and I just ran into a lot of problems. Really it was with Void Linux. Void Linux was an installer similar to Arch Linux, and I'm foreshadowing here. And I have a big zit on my head. Sorry, everyone. Get that out of post. Can't help it. So, first go around, I loaded everything up. Void Linux was the last thing I tried to install, and it wiped out the whole EFI boot sector. It rewrote it with its thing in there. So probably I should have done that first. So I went ahead again and I did different distros. I did Fedora. I did Linux Mint. I did Cachy again. I tried to do Void again. And I did Solus. And that crapped out. And as I'm doing all this, right, I did a short about how to fix your boot order and all that kind of stuff. And I've been doing that nonstop. And so in my previous channel, when I talk about what Linux version you should use, I always came to the same conclusion. It was CachyOS because it's updated more. So the third go around in this, and I'm recording this today in a manner that I never do. I don't have another video going. I'm just talking and I'm going to fill in everything. How do I record it? I don't have a mic. I have an iPhone that I have set up. If I ever reach a certain point, I get a camera and a mic and all that stuff. And I get a background and all that. You just get to see the drapes. So there we go. So I'm like, I'd always recommend Cachy over all these other ones because it's a rolling release, blah, blah, blah. So on this final go around, I decided to use Arch-based distros. So I was going to use Manjaro, however you say it, Endeavor, Garuda, Cachy, and I was going to try to load Arch. So I loaded all those up. I went to use Arch. Arch was supremely hard. That's Roxy, the super Linux dog. Arch was supremely hard to load, even when I used the text-based. Partly because I'm an old codger. It's on my screen. The text is too small. I'm sure if I went in and changed it in the size, it would have helped if I would have done that in the terminal. But part of this I'm recommending, of course, I've seen the meme now. What distro to use? I use Arch, by the way, right? I don't use Arch, by the way. I don't use Void, by the way, because they're just too difficult in 2026 to install. And that might be part of the purpose, but that's the kind of snobby stuff. That's the kids on the mountain that are skiers versus the snowboarders. We're snowboarders. We just want to get on the mountain and shred. But you skiers are keeping us out with your, gatekeeping stuff. So I went ahead, wiped all those out because I screwed up my boot order and all that. So I finally got everything working. I did Cachy first. In hindsight, I would do that last. Cachy I use with the refined. But really, if you're going to load a bunch of distros on your machine, you should use GRUB. It's pretty easy. It keeps appending the GRUB. So when I did these, so after I did Cachy, I put in Endeavor, then I put in Manjaro, and then I put in Garuda. So Garuda's the last one, so it's the one that it defaults to. I haven't changed it back to Cachy. But I can get to Cachy because those 3 distros show up, so I can pick any of those 3 distros. So maybe I would use GRUB for all of them. I like having refined in there. Anyways. So once I did that, I then hit the next stop. So what's the point then? What am I doing here? And I'm like, well, Cachy is this. So what is the difference between those 4 distros? And including Arch Linux. Arch Linux is too hard for the average person to do. It might be a good idea, but it's too hard to do. So Endeavor, they say, is the most like Arch, but it has a graphical installer and it puts stuff in there. Garuda has a bunch of pre-made things. It seems pretty cool, but then you're past the whole Arch thing where I want to learn to do this. So you got to, maybe I like that in some, but it'll do everything for you. It's very complex. I chose the whoop-de-doo color scheme. Then I didn't like it, and I tuned it, and I had to reinstall everything. Then I took the standard KDE. I didn't like that. So I went back to the whoop-de-doo KDE, and then I reframed everything because I know how to do that in KDE. So I made it where I like it. I don't like something on the top. I want it on the bottom. But it has like an icon bar, which is kind of cool. So I did that. And then I put Manjaro on there. Now, Manjaro, so when you ask AI what's the difference, you're asking anyone what the difference. They say Endeavor is most like Arch, not. They say Manjaro, be careful, it's going to break because it's curated and it has like a inoculation period, blah, blah, blah. Garuda is this way in CachyOS, and they always say CachyOS they've recompiled their packages for modern CPUs. What's a modern CPU? There's something that's a -3, V3, and a -V4 of your PCs. Basically, 2016 is the cutoff right there. So if you have a PC in the last 10 years, you have a modern PC. So what Cachy does is it recompiles everything for that new PC, not for every CPU that's been in. It's for modern. So then I kept querying AI and the internet. Well, what is Cachy fundamentally faster, blah, blah, blah. Well, no, because you see. So then I ran a benchmark, FFmpeg, which I've done in other videos on my other channel that I don't do things anymore because I gave my opinion on those. It's just Linux, folks, and operating systems. Ran the same on all of them. Actually, maybe 1 second faster on Serenity or EndeavourOS. Which made me think, okay, so what's the difference between these packages? So I went into DistroWatch, and there's a section in DistroWatch where you can see which packages are more, recent. And I was like, Cachy versus Endeavor. Push Endeavor has a little bit more. Cachy versus Garuda. Maybe it has a little bit more. Cachy versus Manjaro has a lot less. Even the kernel is lower. And of course, Arch is the latest on everything. But what everyone on YouTube will tell you is Arch-based distros aren't reliable because eventually they'll crash because of dependencies. It's never happened for me on Cachy. The only thing that's sometimes taken a week to catch up is VirtualBox. It's okay. So I'm going to find this out with Manjaro, if that's going to do it. I used to sell Medicare, and there was a drug called Manjaro. So if I mix up the two, I apologize. So what does this all mean? I probably have to go back and try to install Arch because it has the latest of everything and to see how broken that is. But these other distros, Cachy, Garuda, Endeavor, and Manjaro, are abstracted from that, so they're not quite as bleeding edge. So I haven't had a problem with Manjaro, but we'll see with these other 4. Which makes to this other thing that I said, and they all run KDE, right? So KDE, 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 KDE. because what I've told you is you get sucked in by the wallpaper. So I've made specific wallpapers for each of these, which I will hopefully show in this video. Number two, if you look at Garuda on their webpage, how it looks there, I've changed it because I have KDE, so I change it how I want it in KDE. But if you like stuff on the top and stuff on the bottom and all kinds of stuff, Garuda is awesome. And it has color palettes and everything. So I feel really comfortable, but I wish I could say that CachyOS was faster than everything else. It's not necessarily. And so I'll be testing this stuff on Steam. These distros have installs of like 150 gigabytes roughly. So I can fit maybe 1 or 2 Steam programs on there. Maybe I'll do Cyberpunk on all of the distros so we get some differences. But I think at the end of the day, and even with Ubuntu, right? So there was a thing on some website where they compared Ubuntu versus Cachy versus Windows 11. I think Ubuntu would still run things decent, and that kernel's like 6 point whatever. So even I get caught up into that mess. So we've run a long time. That's been the delay. This is going to go out today, and hopefully I jazz up the video with all kinds of good screenshots. Bye, YouTube. I don't know where to turn it off.